Hey everybody, welcome back to another review. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. We're getting to the end of the year here, so just moving along, just getting some reviews out there. I think after this, I think I have one more film. I could be wrong. Um, so we're coming down to the wire here, and one of the last films that I was curious to see. Uh, Curious by the, by what I've seen from it, and just also for what I've seen from this person in terms of the director's chair, uh, being one movie. That film being Maestro, which was co-written and directed by Bradley Cooper, also starring Bradley Cooper as Leonard Bernstein, who you guys would know as a famous composer as well as a conductor. Um, he's known for some fairly well-known music, specifically On the Waterfront, West Side Story. Um, and I'm just checking here real quick. I believe he also provides the music here, because I noticed certain cues from West Side Story. Just to double check real quick here. Yes, he does provide the music here as well. The other writer being Josh Singer, who is a frequent collaborator with Steven Spielberg, um, and that being actually the one of the more notable things about Maestro as a film is that originally it was going to be directed by. It was actually looking here. It was actually going to be directed by Martin Scorsese, but he stepped down due to work on The Irishman, and he allowed Bradley Cooper or not allowed. Bradley Cooper stepped in to direct and starred in the film. So, once again, sorry if the sun starts blazing. So, I thought it was Steven Spielberg for some reason. I don't know why. I thought Steven Spielberg initially was directed this. So, oh yeah, he was. Okay, Spielberg was initially considering directing the film, but then he approached Bradley Cooper about directing this movie. So, okay. So I got some of the facts straight now. Starring Bradley Cooper as Leonard Bernstein, who falls for a lady named Felicia, played by Carey Mulligan, and it details their relationship amongst their Leonard's, rise of fame, as well as their birthing of a family, and their quarrels, their dilemmas, their emotional states, and how through time they maintain a love for each other, and ultimately showcasing, primarily through Carey Mulligan's point of view, how Leonard betrays her, but also perhaps also maintains his loyalty for her. And from my view of what the film is ultimately about, it's about ego, it's about fame, it's about glory, it's about what those things do to a person, and the type of obsessive attitude, and the selfishness that is spawned from it. And to recap on A Star Is Born, which was Bradley Cooper's first directorial debut, I found it to be fair work. I mean, there are definitely cracks that you can spot in the filmmaking. It's not as clean or well polished. This being much more well polished, you can definitely see in A Star Is Born where he was still experimenting, still trying to get his footing, still trying to get an understanding of how to fully get. Sorry, I'm just eating. Get a full understanding of how to visually tell his stories and how to structurally tell the stories. So I think here he definitely makes that more of a focus, because the strength of A Star Is Born from Bradley Cooper was his performance, and less so of his directing. And here, those roles have been reversed. So now, the strength of Maestro is actually its craftsmanship, specifically its technicalities. I think that it really captures the spirit of certain time periods, and also just has a subtle nature to it, which I appreciate. It's not completely subtle, but has a fairly subtle nature built. That kind of reminds me of that of Paul Thomas Anderson, specifically Phantom Thread. I'm not sure if that was an influence or not, but it seems that it was. Um, and in the performance, Bradley Cooper's performance also. The first time he pops on screen, I immediately thought of Daniel Day-Lewis in Phantom Thread. And it feels like he's almost trying to capture that sort of energy. He's been on record saying, I guess, that he was doing some method acting and stuff like that. I don't know if that's completely true or not, um, but it feels like he's trying to capture that energy, um, that sort of idea of Daniel Day-Lewis, at least by performance, at least as an inspiration of sorts. And unfortunately, though, it does feel more of like an impersonation. It's his impressions, specifically in his voice, are noticeable, and I do think that can be a detracting, no, more or less a distracting element when it comes to viewing his performance. I think Carey Mulligan is the person who carries the performances so much more, very convincing towards the end, specifically when when the downfall period plays in the film, she becomes entirely convincing. Um, Aesthetically, it's pleasing. I'm a sucker for black and white, so I very appreciated those scenes. Um, in terms of the editing room, also, I think that there's some very seamless elements at play here with transitions, extremely seamless. Um, Very solid framing. Technically, it's just splendid, and also performance wise, it's fair. Um, Now, where the film starts to show show some cracks, I believe, is in the handling of its subject matter, or the handling of its subjects, which I believe is carrying a heavy weight of self-indulgence and a pleasurable presentation of its subjects that I believe gets in the way of the charisma that it wishes to exude and produce ultimately a narrow viewpoint of events that take place. Because the movie wishes to paint Leonard Bernstein as a very as a good figure. He has his issues, but ultimately they're wanting to paint him as a very good figure. When I think clearly what he is a shedhead, because not only is there infidelity, but also he ultimately uses his wife. He's kind of a people pleaser to some extent, because there's this idea about him having hatred in his heart, and clearly he's not a man of hatred, at least based on what the film's telling me. He's not a man of hatred. He's just a very manipulative figure, and his wife is ultimately submissive, and she kind of excuses it because she's getting, I guess, she just is tired of just bearing that knowledge or just dealing with that knowledge. Who knows? But it feels narrow-minded. It doesn't feel like it's really giving a good illustration of events. And at points I just felt like, okay, this doesn't feel completely authentic in terms of overall narrative. And there is some exaggerative and as I said before, some ignorance that is there. I'm not about the whole artistry thing, like saying like the conductor and showing him doing all these big movements and stuff like that. Like being a conductor is an illusion. There's like there's this idea that being a conductor, there's like a power or something like that. Doing all this shit, the waves and stuff like that, that's just all an illusion of control. The real power when it comes to an orchestra is the musicians. So all this waving around and moving around, that's just for one's amusement, because the musicians have practiced the timing, they've practiced the notes, they've memorized their lines. They're doing all the work. You're just coming over here and just like waving your hands around. Like ultimately, yes, the conductor's there to fine tune the performance, but they're not there to do any like physical labor. They're not there to do anything really that crazy. So all this moving around and stuff like that, it was kind of humorous to me. I get it. That's like, that's how people do it, but it's like it doesn't mean that it's like it doesn't mean that it's not ignorant. It's totally ignorant and totally like about your ego at that point. And the ending also illustrates that the idea of ego, where Leonard, like they make it seem that Leonard has this void, which isn't also a occurring idea throughout the film, because there's this underlining haunting like atmosphere that's being built, in that there's not everyone feels whole. Everyone feels like they're missing something, and that's the building of that the building of that idea is that's just fair, feels ignorant, because the reason why Carey Mulligan feels the way why she does is because of how Leonard treats her and how she feels like a third wheel, and Leonard is just not wanting to be open about certain things because they touch on a lot about his personal life, specifically his sexual preferences. He's apparently gay, so um, like like I don't have sympathy for somebody who cheats on somebody and is like, well, I'm exploring myself. It's like, no, that doesn't excuse the cheating, and to then think that your wife should be okay with it. I don't think that's a good thing. And the movie makes it seem that there's reasons that, oh, it's justified. It's like, no, it's not. None of that is justified. And I think that that's being a bit ignorant. And ultimately, the movie itself, I think, is being fairly ignorant towards its subjects. So, and being a bit pleasurable in that space, and at some points being self-indulgent, because he's directing, starring, and co-writing it, and there's an emphasis at times with his performance. So there is a little bit of self-indulgence being played up in there, but it bears a lot of nice technicalities, some good performances there. Ultimately, it is a step up from A Star Is Born, but it's not. It doesn't have the issues that A Star Is Born has, but it has different problems. And thankfully, those problems do not make it a lesser film, but ultimately, it's a good piece, but it could be better if such ignorance was not at the center of it, and if they actually looked at its subject more honestly. I think then you would have something a lot more impactful. It has a tender edge to it when it does shy away from said honesty, or shy away from said ignorance, but it's rare, and a lot of times it's more technically driven, tonally driven, and less so emotionally. So it's good. It's good. I think it's better than A Star Is Born, but I have different problems than I do of A Star Is Born. So yeah. So it's not particularly great, but definitely a step up from what came previously. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on Maestro. I thought it was good, but definitely room for improvement, specifically in how it's portraying its subjects. So, but you guys want to know your thoughts on Maestro in the comment section below. Did you guys like it? Did you guys not like it? Another thing also I gotta say, Bradley Cooper, like as a person, he's kind of silly. I remember when The Star Is Born was coming out, he was like, I can't believe I didn't get nominated for like a director. Like he was making a big stink about that for some reason. So I thought I failed, and it's like, okay, if that's what drives you, I guess like that's pretty fucking pathetic, that somehow an award, a meaningless fucking award, like somehow speaks to the craftsmanship. Anyways, but yeah. So that's my thoughts on Maestro. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's gonna be it for me, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.